There it is. So what's going on?
Hey, I wanted to comment or have just another mind bender here about the Trayvon Martin. Actually, it's not about Trayvon Martin. It's more about George Zimmerman. Do you think there will be any race riots if he is not acquitted, if he's convicted?
Race riots? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like, are all the people that are half Mexican and half white going to turn over cars and have a riot if he's convicted? Really?
Well, what's the issue that seems to be eating at you right now?
I don't have a problem really with this one. Either way, I could see it going either way. Now, with the evidence that's been thrown out there that the media has given to us, I don't see how he could be convicted. But I'm not going to be upset either way. I don't know what was going on in his mind and what his intentions were, his motives were, you know.
You're not going to be upset either way. Well, I mean, they're going to closing arguments. I mean, it could be like the Philpott trial where you think that there's like massive, long jury instructions and that it's going to take them days to deliberate, and they could come back today by this afternoon. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Anything can happen, and they're preparing for race riots because, you know what? I'm going to hang up and listen. I got other people that are there. I guess what happened yesterday was, the prosecution of Mr. Zimmerman's going along, and I think, what are they looking at? Second-degree murder on the guy, and then at the last minute, they tried to include lesser charges, and they're going to rule on that this morning because I think they kind of maybe, I don't know what happened. How you can do that as a prosecutor, I don't know. At the last minute, say, well, all right, how about like battery or something? At least that'll put them in jail for a little while. Well, why didn't you do that in the beginning? You know what I mean? And I don't know as if the prosecutors have any, that's what we decided to do. I mean, how do you hold someone accountable for that? Because if it had just been aggravated battery from the beginning, then the guy might have just pled guilty. But then you get down to the point that, well, then the prosecutors wouldn't have had a high-profile trial to, make their, careers. That kind of thing. This whole thing makes me want to throw up. Even the defense's maneuvers and then the comments is the people's racism that is coming out in different ways, both black and white racism, and it's crazy. 219-845-1100. Hey, Gene, how are you?
Hi, I'm okay. It's all women. 5 white women on the jury and 1 Hispanic woman. 6 jurors.
So it's 6 jurors, 5 white and 1 Hispanic.
Right. All women.
All women. How that happens in Sanford, Florida, I have no idea because Sanford, Florida. Anyways.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all this?
I'd never really watched a trial before, and I was kind of disgusted. But, it's like, really, are those questions or are those just putting words in somebody's mouth and saying yes or no? It's just, I found it really kind of disappointing, I guess.
Yeah, sickening.
And I think I'd have a really hard time, personally, I'd have a hard time. I couldn't be a juror because I just really think the fact he was carrying a gun and went following him or checking on him was, that if he hadn't done that, the death wouldn't have happened. Whether or not it ended up being self-defense, I don't know. It's, as far as that goes.
How about the woman who came in and said that recently she had been in her house with her little baby, and right near where the crime took place, and 2 young black males came to the door, busted in, and she hid in the little kid's room holding the kid and had scissors in her hand, and the guy was trying to break into the door, but the door held, and they left. So that had happened recently, and now George Zimmerman sees a young black male walking through the neighborhood and is kind of keeping an eye on him. Now, is he out of line?
I don't think watching anybody is out of line, but, it's like if you wanted to call the police, fine, leave it at that. Is how I feel.
Okay, so hold on a second. Okay. In your logic,
All right.
If Trayvon Martin, if it had happened how Zimmerman's attorneys have put it forward, where eventually Trayvon Martin hits him and Zimmerman's on his back and the guy is picking him up and jamming his head against the sidewalk, it doesn't really matter what happened because he was the one following him. I mean, that's what you're saying, really.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter what happens. I'm saying it could have been prevented if he would have stayed out of the situation.
So hold on a second, and this gets to the heart of the matter, is that you're saying that he should not have been following or keeping an eye on this individual walking through the subdivision who matched the description of a recent hostage hang. Well, what are you saying?
I'm not saying he shouldn't have been watching him, but he already called the police. The police ran away.
So he should.
He should have waited for the police.
Since he continued to follow the guy to see where he was going, then he should go to prison now that he's shot the kid.
That's not what I'm saying, because I don't know if it was self-defense.
You said I couldn't sit on that jury because...
Well, because I have a preconceived notion. I think that he shouldn't have followed him.
Okay,
and so you... make it hard for me to be objective. I've listened to it. It sounds like it might have been self-defense.
I mean, the more and more, it's almost as if the prosecution yesterday kind of threw their hands up and said, all right, well, maybe Trayvon Martin was on top of the guy, and maybe he was kind of pushing him into the sidewalk.
And some of the testimony leads to that.
Yeah, and so
but the thing that I think is really frustrating is that they're preparing for riots. Isn't that profiling to the hilt? Blacks are going to be violent.
Well, I think there's been a number of, I mean, this whole thing has white racism, black racism, and Hispanic racism in it. And if you break it down, you know, people are pretty much racist. Everybody's a little bit racist. That was a line out of, what is the name of that show? I forget. Everyone's a little bit racist. And I think it's all coming out in the Trayvon Martin murder, killing. And it has just gotten, I don't know as if the actual players in this are that bad of people or doing that bad a thing, but it just kind of shows what's already there. People are racist. Black racist, white racist, and Hispanic racist.
When race should have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but it does. And that's the reality of the situation. And my wife's like, well, be careful how you talk about this. But I'm like, well, if I'm going to talk about white racism and not talk about black racism or Hispanic racism because that is that's taboo, then I'm not really representing the whole topic, am I? There's plenty of racism to go around by everybody here.
Definitely.
And there are precedents. When Rodney King thing happened in Los Angeles and there were riots, they weren't prepared for them. And so now the police are preparing for them. Might be a black police chief, it might be a Hispanic police chief, and it might be a white police chief. Doesn't really matter at this point because your job is to keep everybody safe. And if it looks like there might be riots in the black community, then you gotta watch out for it. I mean,
but what's the evidence that there's going, or what's the suggestion or the indicators that there might be riots?
I mean, that would be a question that you want to ask a police chief to say, well, what are you making this decision on? Then that's I can't
just
believe that.
And anger and hatred.
Exactly. I mean, whatever the reasons are, I mean, somebody's got to do their job to keep the order. And if it looks like there's going to be a big court case and it's going to incense either black people or white people or Hispanic people, then it's that police chief's job to, I think Buncich would be, if it was happening here, he'd be all over it and be like, I don't really care. I'm just here to I don't care how it came to this or whatever. It's not a political or racial statement. It's like, well, I'm going to keep people safe here in Indiana. All right, thanks a lot, Gene. Good call. Hey, 640.